trying to understand Harvey's conception of anti-value, and this is the second session, and we started with this review essay, so it's not Harvey's own work. It's the review of a couple of his works in which he discusses, at least in one of them, he discusses the concept of anti-value. I think the work is Marx, Capital, and the Madness of Economic Reason. And last time we discussed this paragraph, but we'll just quickly go over it in case we have something else to say. So Harvey begins by describing Marx's overall analysis of capital. So capital as value in motion. I would say capital is value in motion in search of itself. In order to multiply itself or increase itself. So Harvey begins by describing Marx's overall analysis of capital as value in motion, much like water changes form as it moves through the hydrological cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation. So in the same manner, value changes form as capital circulates. So the concept of value is key to understanding capitalism here, and specifically the notion of capital according to Harvey. So value changes form like water changes form in hydrological cycle. The value changes form in capital circulation in order for capital to increase itself, I guess. So value changes form as capital circulates. And last time we looked at value in its different forms, so I'm not going to go over it, but just to mention it. I think I missed some of it, didn't get to start the recorder, so I'm not sure where I stopped. Anyway, the use value is the user value of the apple, for example, as a product of combination of nature and human labor. The use value of an apple is it that it satisfies human needs, sustain me, for example. That's the use value of one apple. Exchange value, on the other hand, is if I have enough apples and I want something else, I exchange one apple for one bread or for two bread, depending on the exchange value. If I can get two loaves of bread for one apple, then the exchange value of one apple is equal to two loaves of bread. But when we talk about exchange value, the function of exchange value within non-capitalist economies and market is totally different from that capital economy and market. In non-capitalist economies and metals markets, exchange, the purpose of exchange is to swap things which I have in excess for things which I don't have, or have less of, in order to fulfill my needs and needs of my family. And also in non-capitalist, there's you know, I might, exchange in order to make just profit, for example, which is morally sanctioned by a social order in which I live. On the other, but in non-capitalist economies, exchange value is never exchange value is never an end in itself. On the other hand, in capitalist economy, obviously we're talking about ideal type here. Exchange value dominates all other types of values, use value, etc., and in a sense become an end in itself, in that, because through exchanging and reducing the time between exchange and consumption, and shortening the circuit between production, exchange, and then consumption, in order to get into another cycle, because that's the best way through which value or capital multiply itself, because the purpose is to increase the quantity for its own sake, or accumulation for the sake of accumulation, as Marx puts it somewhere. So although we talk about exchange value, we should always differentiate. I think how at least sometimes I feel that it doesn't differentiate enough between exchange value in capitalist economy and non-capitalist economies, and the fundamental difference between them. But I might be wrong, I might be misremembering, and he might actually does emphasize the difference. Anyhow, let's go back to the text. So Harvey begins by describing Marx's overall analysis of capital as value in motion. Much like water changes form as it moves through the hydrological cycle, that is evaporation, condensation, precipitation, value changes form as capital circulates. Okay, and then it gives an example or the illustration. Value produced by labor initially takes the form of a commodity. So commodity in Marxist parlance is a thing which is there to be sold in the market, really. So commodity is something beyond Apple. So um, I think, because that's how you get the phrase commodification. So, for example, in non-capitalist society, I make chair. Yeah, so chair is worked through labor plus nature. But chair in non-capital society is not a commodity. It is an object which has use value. Obviously, chair as commodity has use value as well, but its primary purpose is not use. Its primary purpose is exchange in the circuit of capital. So he's saying that value changes from in capital value produced by labor. So initially, labor produces this labor theory of value chair. And through its labor, it valorizes it, like increases its value. Probably valorization here is the translation of Marxist term, Verwertung, to increase a value of a thing. So chair was a wood, basically. So the value was created through labor, and it was created in order to exchange in the market. And since it was created for that very purpose, it was a commodity to start with, and then in the market it changes its value. And there's exchange in the market, and then you get money, and money is then invested again to make 2 chairs, for example, and you get more money. And so the circuit of capital is changing value. So it was just a wood, for example, is change value to chair, it became commodity, and commodity was exchange, it became money. Then money went and become chair again, that is commodity. And the purpose of all this cycle is, so this value is increasing itself, but increasing itself in quantity only, pure quantity. And the purpose is to multiply that quantity, increase that quantity. That's what capital is. And if you are taking value in this sense, then capital and value is using them in almost as synonymous terms here. Value in search of itself, that's what capital is, in search of itself, so it can multiply itself, increase itself perpetually. And again, so value produced by labor initially take the form of commodity, so that valorization, when commodities are sold on the market, value is transformed into money. That's realization. It doesn't have to be money, but money is the dominant form of exchange in capitalist society for reasons which we don't need here. So not all money is capitalist money, obviously, but if the purpose is money is again to as an end in itself, to multiply itself, then that becomes capitalist money. Okay, so when money is parceled out as wages, taxes, rent, interest, and profit, that is distribution. a portion takes the form of money capital that is reinvested in production. That is valorization. It goes back to, as I said in the cycle. And these things, taxes, rent, interest, and profits, these are just inevitable things. So indispensable or inevitable uh, stations in this cycle of capital circulation. But the main purpose is the end bit, to increase the quantity and keep increasing the quantity. That's why it's important to reduce the time this circuit takes. So just to go back, so you have labor, and labor creates value. Chair. Neither labor is an end in itself, nor chair. But the purpose of labor is to create chair, and the purpose of chair is to exchange it. And the purpose of exchange is to get more of the same quantity, and money then go into profits, etc. Everything. Taxes, rents, those are indispensable things, but the main thing is the reinvestment. So then you can go to labor again and chair. And that's what, so that's the initial start bit, and this is the end bit here, and then I again, and that's so in order, if the purpose is to increase the quantity as soon as possible and keep increasing it, so one thing is, so you would try to shorten this circuit, and you will try to, money, rent, profit, taxes, and the wages. So you would try to decrease wages, you try to decrease taxes, you will try to decrease rent as much as possible. The main thing is profit, and profit you will want to reinvest. And obviously production takes time, and then consumption takes time, and share is durable thing. So you want to make sure that production process is sort of reduced, or if we can get rid of it, and consumption process is reduced and repeated often. Otherwise we won't have this circle coming back. So that's why in the long run capital will like to get rid of production and consumption as much as possible. That's why the dominant form of accumulation becomes financial, where production consumption takes very short time, you know producing money and selling and buying money itself, um, and then investing money. But the thing is, it can never get rid of production and consumption totally, because otherwise, even when finance is relatively independent of production and consumption, it still depends on consumption and production. So and that's why you have bubbles and busts and all those problems of financial crash and all that. But they all stem from this basic urge to multiply as soon as possible, to increase capital, to multiply capital, to accumulate for the sake of accumulation. So when money is parceled out as wages, taxes, rent, interest, and profit, that is distribution, a portion takes the form of money capital that is reinvested in production and valorization. Unlike the water cycle, however, capital accumulation is structured as constantly expanding spiral. Let's come back to that, like reinvestment in them. This expansion depends on the successful movement of value across different forms. The expansion is the expansion of not just the circle. Expansion is the expansion of actual accumulation, really, because circle is always coming back and you are trying to shorten that circuit. The expansion depends on the successful movement value across different forms, of course, from valorization to back to valorization, but you're always trying to short circuit distribution and realization and all those steps, because really the only thing you are interested in is neither valorization nor realization nor distribution, but actual accumulation. So, and if you try to get rid of all those steps as much as possible. So as capital matures, you know, the accumulation, purest form of accumulation as it is achieved in financial markets, to a large extent become independent of all that valorization, realization, and distribution, although it can never get rid of that process altogether. Crisis of over-accumulation occur. Okay, so probably we'll stop here and we will continue from the, let's read it anyway, from the crisis of over-accumulation occurs when the flow stalls, such as when commodities cannot be sold or when money capital cannot be profitable investment. We'll start from here next time. Okay, thank you.